Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We are ready to resume the United Nations International Meeting on the question of Palestine with the second plenary session entitled Support by Latin Americans and Caribbean Countries for a Comprehensive, Just and Lasting Settlement of the Question of Palestine. Once all presentations have been made, the floor will be open for questions and comments from the audience, to which our speakers will respond. Before starting, I would like to appeal to all our speakers to stay within the 15 minutes time limit set by the organizers, so that there will be enough time for a discussion. Our first speaker is His Excellency Mr. Ibrahim Alzeben, Ambassador of the State of Palestine to Brazil. Prior to his current assignment, he has served as ambassador to Colombia, Venezuela, Cuba, and Paraguay. From 1996 to 2000, he has also worked as the head of Department for Latin America at the Palestinian Ministry of Planning and International Cooperation. We are honored to have you, sir. You have the floor.
Bom dia.
Good morning, it's in Portuguese, but I'll actually be speaking in Spanish, don't worry. Portuñol is the language of the future of this continent. And I'd like to begin by apologizing, Mr. Chairman, because both in the Arab world and in Latin America, time is rather elastic. The Latin hour, or Arab time, or third world time. So 15 minutes, give or take, 2 minutes, give or take, really doesn't make much difference. I'd like to begin by greeting Mr. Chairman Diallo, and I'd also like to greet the Bureau, Mr. Real Mansour, Ambassador, Permanent Representative of Palestine to the United Nations, and I'd like to extend my greetings to the ambassadors and accredited diplomats here, all the conference participants, and the organizing committee, representatives of the press. And I'd like to say that truly at the end of this conference, it's my hope that we will come out with something practical. Going back to your first words, Mr. Chairman, I'll be speaking slowly in order to facilitate interpretation, complying with the 3 Andean milestones. Walk slowly, eat little, and the last, sleep alone. I had actually prepared a written statement, but I'll be departing from it a little bit, if I may, Mr. Chairman. And I do so in order to express my gratitude for this opportunity to participate, and I should say this is the second time I'm participating in this type of conference, which I recognize as a school where I learn a great deal, as our life is also one of lifelong learning. I learned how to recognize myself through all the presentations of yesterday. I saw myself in them, and I'm sure that I will continue learning in the next couple of days. I'm very pleased to be here in Ecuador, as it's the only country on the continent that I had not visited in my 38 years in Latin America. So mission accomplished. Continentally speaking, I now feel very satisfied for having been here, and I'd like to thank you for your solidarity, your hospitality. Truly, this hospitality and warmth can be felt everywhere in the faces and in the gestures of people, and I too feel profoundly Latin Palestine. That's what I have become in the last 38, almost 39 years. I'd like to commend Ecuador, both for this country and for this enchanting city. From the little I've been able to see, I've been able to visit most of the urban sites, the metropolis. This is the most conserved of all the cities in Latin America, and perhaps the largest historical sector. So I'd like to congratulate Ecuador on this heritage of all mankind, where there's also a great deal of diversity and originality. Why Latin America? That's the topic today. This continent really, we could be speaking in Arabic, to be truthful, since they were the first colonizers. Arabs, Jews, and Muslims converted and who had been expelled one way or the other from their country. We have been here, Arabs and Jews, and Muslims or Jews, Sephardic Jews, since the crown of Spain wanted to remove the baggage it had in Andalusia and send it away. I believe that researchers and historians will agree with me, and even Dr. Clemenza might agree with me, that up until the 19th century, more than 40% of the Brazilian population was Muslim, Arab, Jewish background, and had converted. If you study the names, the last names or family names of people, you will see that indeed Latin Americans have very close ties with the Arab world. Now, there's a certain amount of living together amongst Arabs and Jews here. And why this example? It's not taken to that area where there's so. Why is the role model here different from what we see in the Middle East? And I think that's one of the topics that we should discuss, so that we can emerge from this meeting with some kind of platform or work program that could actually be implemented. In Brazil, I discovered recently that in Bahia, El Salvador, Bahia, there are manuscripts in Arabic that have been discovered. They go back to the 1600s, 1650. So this is a clear demonstration of what I've been saying, which is that we have a great deal of common ground. There's a great deal of common ground between Latin America and the Arab world. We're called the third world, and as a third world, we should admit it. Let's work together. Latin America decided to be very involved in the conflict. Latin America, in 1947, played a very important role in the partition of Palestine, and thereafter in recognition of the state of Israel. Without the Latin American vote, Israel wouldn't exist. It wouldn't have been able to exist. So again, with the Latin American vote, as of 2010, we see Latin America playing the same role. Palestine was able to exist. I think Brazil, Argentina, Ecuador, and all the Latin American countries that have recognized the state of Palestine. And we hope that this will be the first step. And to that end, we are working, and we hope that that step will be followed by another step. There are communities here Communities, such as in all the countries where I've visited, these communities are working together, cooperate, collaborate, especially in textiles, trade, the financial system. And why? Why hasn't that yielded any results? Because this example is not taken over there. The role model is not taken over there. The lesson I've learned is that there's a lack of friendship. Honesty, it might be a strong word, but honesty is really what's missing in these ties. I think that the communities here in Latin America have an obligation and a role to play, and they have an obligation to actively participate in this conflict, and they should do so in a manner that carries weight, that has consequence, without any fear. Both the Jewish community in Latin America and the Arab community in Latin America, which is quite numerous, both communities should refrain, we should refrain from supporting, first of all, the occupation. Those harmful activities that lead nowhere except to prolong the occupation and prolong the conflict between two countries, Palestine and Israel. And then the whole area is sucked into it. Palestine, Jews, Arabs, all of those of us here have an obligation to work together to build institutions and not to continue to operate under the table or behind a screen. So we have an obligation to not support the continuation of the occupation. We cannot continue having an army killing Palestinians or occupying houses because it's cheap, because the Israeli government offers cheap housing to all, including and especially for Latin Americans. No one is saying that Jews and Arabs shouldn't defend their countries or support their countries. The Jew has an obligation of defending his interests, as does the Arab has an obligation to defend the Palestinian state. But it's an appeal, an urgent appeal to all communities, especially the Jewish community of Latin America, an appeal to ask them to stop supporting the occupation, stop supporting the settlements. We need to do this at a country level so we can follow the role model of Europe. Stop the settlement, give more strength to those efforts that are working for peace, both within Israel and in the Arab countries in the Middle East. I was very satisfied yesterday in hearing you, Mr. Asham. I was very satisfied to hear an Israeli speaking in public and not being two-faced about it and having two speeches or speaking out of the side of their mouths. As ambassador of Palestine, following the steps in my direction of Mahmoud Abbas and Arafat, we don't have two different speeches. And President Arafat, Abbas, every time he comes to Latin America, at least when he comes to Brazil, and I can say this, I've seen it myself, he has demanded to have meetings with the communities. We don't need two speeches or to be two-faced. So those are my initial words, which were not in my written statement, Mr. Chairman. And if I may now, Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I would like, Mr. Chairman, to begin by thanking you for your kind invitation, which allows us to express our point of view and to contribute to this great effort of the United Nations and the committee, which is so well steered by Your Excellency, Ambassador. 2014 is a special year for the tireless struggle of the Palestinian people, who have not lost hope of achieving peace. It is also a special year for all the organizations and activists that support us in this struggle, We are grateful to the United Nations General Assembly for dedicating this year to my people. Latin America has strong ties to our region, ties of culture, ethnicity, economy, religion, politics, and morality. Latin America has also been with us since the very question of Palestine first appeared. Much has been done, and much remains to be done. And that is why we are here today in the Andean territory of Ecuador, so that together we can envision and build an action plan to bring a chance for peace to the land that is 3 times holy, the land that has been sacrificed 1,000 times. We ask no more than for a chance for peace. Because we know, Mr. Chairman, that there is, and there never will be, a fair solution. From this forum, I would like to express appreciation to all states that have recognized the state of Palestine and all the activists that have expressed and continue to express their solidarity and support for peace in Palestine. And for those who have not been able to do it, we thank him for continuing to support us, and we call them to join the almost entire international community in doing so. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I come here from Brazil, that friendly country where I have the opportunity to serve my country. And previously I had the honor to serve in Colombia, Venezuela, Paraguay, Nicaragua, Bolivia, Peru, and Cuba. Today I will speak of Brazil, however, while also recognizing the affection and valuable solidarity of all the peoples and countries that I just mentioned. And with the permission of the Ambassador of Brazil, I will speak to exalt the work of Brazil, if I may. Brazil has been exemplary in its effective solidarity with Palestine through a balanced policy that complies with all the mandates of international law. We ask no more than that from our friends. Compliance with and respect for international law means putting into practice the laws and regulations that ensure peaceful coexistence between peoples and set the foundation for mutual recognition without discrimination, colonization, or contempt. Brazil has played this role since the very beginning of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Brazil gave official recognition, for example, to the Palestinian people's struggle and to the PLO as their sole and legitimate representative, as it was the first country on the continent to recognize the state of Palestine in December 2010, when it donated a site of 16,000 square meters for the construction of our embassy in Brasilia. I just now received the news about the funds, which is in the second floor of the embassy there has been built. We have 4,000 square meters, and they just finished the first phase of the building of the embassy. Thank you, Brazil. Brazil also participates in infrastructure restoration works in Palestine, in the cities of the West Bank and Gaza, and also at hospitals, sports centers, schools, and other facilities. 7 bilateral agreements have been signed and implemented. Turning now to legislation. The National Congress established on the 29th of December as the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinians. Every 29th of November is celebrated throughout the national territory as the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. Frequent official visits have been made at the governmental and presidential level. Brazil has expressed its satisfaction with the results attained so far, and also its wish to participate in all efforts to restore and establish peace between Palestine and Israel throughout the region. Brazil participated in the work of the Annapolis Conference and welcomes the inclusion of new actors in the quartet in view of the international dimension of the Palestinian question. President Dilma Rousseff dedicated a significant portion of her inaugural speech in the General Assembly of the United Nations for 2 consecutive years to the question of Palestine, emphasizing the urgent need for a solution for the good of the Palestinian and Israeli peoples. The Brazilian Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Itamaraty has hosted many important events. One example is the Lado a Lado, side-by-side seminar held in July 2012 which convened prominent individuals from Palestine and Israel, both from the area and from the diaspora, for a face-to-face discussion of the potential for peaceful coexistence and for changing the conflict through cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, Palestine is grateful for all these efforts that help to change the pattern of developments in our region by replacing weapons with the pen and with flowers. Civil society and supporters in Brazil have provided excellent support for the official measures and have gone even further. The efforts of these friendly supporters have included fora, walks, visits in Porto Alegre and other cities, as well as reports. All of these events took place, and every time we meet, 11 activists are on their way to Palestine. As we meet today, they are on their way to Palestine to take part in solidarity activities, to denounce the occupation, and to meet with pacifists from both sides, including Madame Marbila. There are also journalists, and we hope that the outcome of the work of these journalists will find a space in the media, which unfortunately the media has not always been a good ally of our cause. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, Cuba opened the door to hope for us on this continent in 1974. Brazil gave shape to this hope in 2010. Latin America, South America, Central America, and the Caribbean is building the foundation for that right. Mentioning that as an example of solidarity is just one way of thanking that friendly country and to work all together to maintain human dignity. One way of thanking all those present here and through you, the peoples and activists that you represent. That is how we can thank these friendly countries. It's to show that there is no limit to solidarity when we receive the call from justice. This year we can improve our level of coordination and allow our creativity to flourish. The sooner we act, the better. And that was shown in the movie that we saw yesterday. Truly, the faster we act, the fewer victims there will be. The more effective our action is, the less victims there will be, and the more resources there will be to build a better future. We hope to leave this forum with an agenda for action that can have an impact in the field of conflict, and we urge all of you to do the following. Increase your solidarity activities and adopt legislation in your respective countries to celebrate the International Day of Solidarity with the struggle of the Palestinian people. We urge you to denounce the illegal Israeli occupation of the territories of the State of Palestine, to denounce the settlements embedded in our territory and the wall of shame that prevents the establishment of the state and also prevents the contact between the two peoples. I believe that the words of His Holiness John Paul II, 6 months before he passed, said the Palestinian people and the Israeli people don't need walls. What they need are bridges. And I think that sums it all up. We need to boycott the products of such settlements, following the example of many countries in Europe and around the world. We need to introduce academic curricula that show the origins of the conflict and promote lectures and seminars on the subject. We need to create university lectureships on the Middle East and the question of Palestine. Practices against international law, ladies and gentlemen, should be denounced. To remain silent is to grant respect to those. We are against the occupation and all of its adverse consequences and its effects, but we are not against the Israeli people or Israel. That should be made very clear. We are called on throughout the year 2014 to show that we do not want the occupation or the settlements in the state territory of the State of Palestine to continue. And further, we are called on to show that we wish to see this state as a full member of the United Nations, side by side with Israel, building a future of peace and cooperation, and see the 5,000 political prisoners released. Let's turn the page on terror and violence. We have shared a glorious past. We are sharing a painful present. And we have the right to share the territory with Jerusalem as the capital of 2 sovereign states, and we have the right to share a bright future. I am sure that this is possible. We can achieve this goal by negotiating on the basis of respect for international law. The refugees are awaiting justice. I say we refugees, because I am the son of a refugee. Prisoners await their freedom, and the state of Palestine awaits its due sovereignty and independence. As you friends and brothers and sisters of Latin America, we are counting on you, Palestinians, Algerians, and Arabs of the region. We deserve this opportunity. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for your dedication, for this patience, for this opportunity. Thank you for giving me a bit more than 15 minutes. Thank you, Ecuador, for your hospitality, solidarity, and have a good day, one and all.
I thank Ambassador Alzeben for his comprehensive presentation.
Long.
It was comprehensive. It reminded us about the importance of Latin America and Latin American countries in solidarity with Palestine, and also about the wave of recognition that is of the Palestinian state that started from Latin American countries in Brazil in 2010. Thank you very much for being here and sharing with us your insights and for your presentation.